If castor oil truly detoxed the liver, reduced inflammation throughout the body, balanced hormones, healed the gut, and dissolved cysts, why do so many people quietly stop using it? That question sits at the center of the conversation around castor oil. Not because castor oil is useless, and not because every claim about it is wrong, but because there is a growing gap between what people believe it does and what biology can actually support. For the past several years, castor oil has moved from a simple household remedy into something much larger. Social media turned it into a kind of wellness multi-tool, a substance that supposedly addresses dozens of unrelated health concerns at once. Castor oil packs for detoxification, castor oil for hormone balance, castor oil for inflammation, fertility, gut health, lymphatic drainage, liver cleansing, skin repair, and even breaking down internal cysts. The list is long. And when you first hear it, the claims almost sound plausible. After all, castor oil has been used for centuries. It's natural. It comes from a plant. It appears gentle compared to pharmaceutical treatments. For many people interested in wellness, that combination alone creates an intuitive sense of trust. But intuition and biology don't always move in the same direction. A natural substance can absolutely have real biological effects. In fact, many modern medicines originated from plants. The question isn't whether something is natural. The question is what mechanisms exist inside the body that allow it to produce the results people expect. And when we start looking closely at castor oil through that lens, the story becomes more interesting. Most people first encounter castor oil through the idea of detox. The belief goes something like this. Applying castor oil to the abdomen or taking it internally helps the body remove accumulated toxins, particularly through the liver. Some variations of the claim suggest it stimulates lymphatic drainage or improves circulation in a way that accelerates the body's natural cleansing systems. At a surface level, that narrative feels logical. The body does have detoxification pathways. The liver processes compounds. The lymphatic system moves fluid and immune cells. If a substance could stimulate those systems, it might theoretically support detoxification. But there's an important question hidden beneath that idea. What specific biological pathway would castor oil use to accomplish that? This is where things begin to shift from belief to mechanism. Castor oil is a vegetable oil extracted from the seeds of the Ricinus communis plant. Chemically, it is unique compared to most other plant oils because it contains a very high concentration of a fatty acid called ricinoleic acid. In fact, roughly 85 to 90% of castor oil is made up of this single compound. Ricinoleic acid is the molecule responsible for most of the biological effects associated with castor oil. When researchers study how castor oil interacts with the body, they are usually studying what ricinoleic acid does once it enters the digestive system. And one effect in particular has been clearly demonstrated. When castor oil is consumed, enzymes in the small intestine break it down, releasing ricinoleic acid. That compound then interacts with specific receptors in the intestinal wall known as EP3 prostaglandin receptors. These receptors play a role in regulating smooth muscle activity within the digestive tract. When ricinoleic acid activates those receptors, it increases contractions in the intestinal smooth muscle. In simple terms, it stimulates movement in the intestines. This is why castor oil has historically been used as a laxative. It accelerates bowel movement by increasing intestinal motility. That mechanism is real. It has been studied. It explains why castor oil can sometimes produce noticeable effects in the digestive system relatively quickly. But notice something important about that mechanism. It has nothing to do with detoxifying the liver. It doesn't dissolve cysts. It doesn't rebalance hormones. It doesn't cleanse the lymphatic system. It stimulates intestinal movement. And when you understand that distinction, many of the broader wellness claims surrounding castor oil start to look very different. Part of the confusion comes from how the body responds to a laxative effect. When someone takes a substance that increases bowel activity, they often experience a feeling of lightness afterward. Bloating decreases. Digestion may temporarily feel smoother. Some people interpret this as the body having released toxins. But physiologically, what happened was simpler. The intestines moved. Waste exited the digestive tract more quickly. That can absolutely create a subjective feeling of improvement. But that feeling doesn't necessarily indicate that deeper biological systems were repaired or reset. And that distinction matters because the claims made about castor oil frequently extend far beyond its known mechanism. Another common belief involves castor oil packs applied to the skin, particularly over the abdomen or liver area. The idea is that castor oil absorbs through the skin and stimulates circulation or lymphatic flow underneath the surface, helping the body clear inflammation or toxins. It's an appealing concept. The body does absorb certain substances through the skin. Transdermal medications exist for precisely that reason, but the question remains the same. Is there strong evidence that ricinoleic acid penetrates the skin deeply enough to influence internal organs like the liver or lymphatic system? So far, the scientific evidence supporting that idea is limited. Some small studies have explored topical applications, but they do not clearly demonstrate the dramatic systemic effects often described online. In other words, the leap from castor oil can affect intestinal motility to castor oil detoxifies the body is much larger than it initially appears. This doesn't mean castor oil has no value. It simply means the range of claims attached to it has expanded far beyond the range of mechanisms we currently understand. And that expansion is not unique to castor oil. It happens repeatedly in the wellness world. A substance shows one real effect. That effect gets interpreted as something broader. Then gradually, through repetition and storytelling, it becomes associated with dozens of benefits that were never directly demonstrated. The line between possibility and proof slowly blurs. So when people ask whether castor oil works, the answer isn't a simple yes or no. The more accurate response is more nuanced. It depends on what someone expects it to do. Because when expectations align with the biological mechanism, the results can sometimes make sense. And that brings us to the next question. If the science behind castor oil is relatively narrow, why do some people still report real benefits from using it? To understand that, we need to look at the situations where it actually does produce noticeable effects. And that leads directly into something many people overlook: why it sometimes works. Sometimes castor oil appears to work. That statement might sound surprising after everything we just discussed, but it is an important place to begin. Because dismissing something entirely often misses the more interesting question: why do some people experience noticeable changes after using it? In certain situations, the biological mechanism we talked about earlier does produce real, observable effects. When castor oil is consumed, the ricinoleic acid released in the intestine activates EP3 receptors and increases contractions in the smooth muscle lining of the digestive tract. This stimulates movement through the intestines and accelerates bowel activity. For someone experiencing temporary sluggish digestion or mild constipation, that stimulation can lead to a clear result. The digestive system moves more efficiently for a short period of time. Bloating may decrease. Abdominal pressure may ease. The person feels lighter. That experience can feel significant. And once a person feels noticeably better after taking something, the brain naturally begins connecting that improvement to broader explanations. Was it detoxification? Did the liver finally release stored toxins? Did inflammation decrease throughout the body? But when we look at the underlying mechanism again, the explanation is simpler. The intestines moved. Waste left the digestive tract sooner than it otherwise might have. That is a meaningful effect in the narrow context of intestinal motility. But it is very different from the larger claims often associated with castor oil. There is another situation where castor oil can appear to help: The act of applying a warm compress or massaging oil onto the abdomen can itself produce a calming, physiological response. Warmth increases local circulation in the skin. Gentle pressure activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the branch of the nervous system associated with relaxation and digestion. When the body shifts into that relaxed state, digestion sometimes becomes smoother. Muscle tension decreases. Discomfort softens. So if someone performs a castor oil pack ritual in the evening, lying down, applying warmth, slowing their breathing, they may genuinely feel better afterward. But again, it raises a subtle question. Was the change produced by the chemical properties of the oil itself, or by the physiological effects of relaxation and warmth? Often, the two experiences become blended together in memory. From the user's perspective, the improvement feels real, but the mechanism behind it may be far less dramatic than the explanation attached to it. And this is where the broader narrative around castor oil begins to stretch beyond what biology supports. One of the most common expansions involves the concept of detoxification. The idea suggests that castor oil somehow stimulates the liver to release accumulated toxins, flushing them from the body. At first glance, that narrative sounds intuitive. The body does process substances through the liver. Waste does eventually leave through the digestive system. It is tempting to imagine a shortcut that accelerates that entire process. But human detoxification does not work the way that idea suggests. The liver already performs detoxification continuously through complex enzyme systems that chemically modify compounds so they can be safely eliminated. Those processes are tightly regulated and occur inside liver cells themselves. They are not triggered by intestinal motility. Increasing bowel movement speed does not activate liver detox pathways. It simply moves intestinal contents along faster. Yet, when someone experiences a noticeable bowel movement after using castor oil, the sensation of release can feel like proof that something deeper occurred. The mind fills in the story. Another expansion involves hormone balance. Castor oil is sometimes promoted as a way to regulate hormonal systems or improve reproductive health. These claims appear particularly often in discussions about fertility or ovarian cysts. But hormone systems are among the most complex regulatory networks in the human body. They involve interactions between the brain, endocrine glands, feedback loops, and receptor sensitivity across multiple organs. A single substance affecting intestinal smooth muscle does not suddenly reorganize that system. Even medications designed specifically to target hormones struggle to create predictable results because those systems are so dynamic. So when castor oil is credited with balancing hormones, the claim typically relies on anecdotal experiences rather than a demonstrated biological pathway. A similar pattern appears with inflammation. Inflammation is not a single process that can simply be switched off. It is a coordinated immune response involving signaling molecules, immune cells, tissue repair mechanisms, and regulatory feedback loops. Some compounds can influence parts of that system under certain conditions, but the idea that a topical oil applied to the abdomen can broadly reduce systemic inflammation remains largely unsupported by strong evidence. Yet the claims persist. And to understand why, we have to look beyond biology and consider psychology. Humans are natural pattern-seeking creatures. When we experience two events close together in time, using a remedy and feeling better afterward, the brain instinctively links them. That connection feels meaningful even if other variables were involved. Maybe digestion improved because stress levels dropped that week. Maybe symptoms were already fluctuating naturally. Maybe lifestyle changes happened alongside the new remedy. But the brain prefers a clear cause and effect story. Once that story forms, it spreads easily. A personal experience becomes a testimonial. Testimonials accumulate online. The repetition creates an impression of widespread success. even if each individual story arose under different circumstances. Over time, the narrative becomes stronger than the evidence. Another psychological factor is expectation. When people try something they believe will help them, the body often responds to that expectation. This phenomenon, sometimes called the placebo effect, is not imaginary. It reflects real interactions between belief, the nervous system, and symptom perception. If someone expects a ritual to improve their digestion or reduce discomfort, their perception of symptoms may genuinely shift. But expectation-driven improvement does not necessarily indicate that the underlying biological problem was solved, and that distinction becomes clearer when we zoom out and look at the complexity of the body itself. Hormonal systems involve multiple organs communicating continuously through chemical signals. Immune responses adapt moment by moment. The digestive system alone contains millions of neurons and trillions of microorganisms interacting in ways we are still trying to understand. Within that level of complexity, it is unlikely that a single substance produces sweeping systemic changes across all those systems simultaneously. That does not make castor oil useless. It simply places it within the boundaries of what its known mechanism can reasonably explain. And when we view it through that lens, the pattern surrounding castor oil becomes easier to understand. In certain narrow situations, particularly those related to intestinal motility or relaxation rituals, people may experience genuine, short-term improvement. But when the claims extend into detoxification, hormonal regulation, lymphatic cleansing, or systemic inflammation, the explanations begin to drift away from the biological pathways we actually know exist. The difference between those two categories is subtle, but it matters. Because once we understand where something realistically fits, we can stop expecting it to do things it was never designed, biologically, to accomplish. Which brings us to the final piece of the conversation. If castor oil does have a limited but real role, where does it actually make sense to use it?